Read a verse this morning out of Isaiah 6:8. But I want to read you a verse preceding that in another book of the Bible. And it's in Luke 10, and it says, verse 2, "Therefore he said unto them, The harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into his harvest." And we had Isaiah this morning, 6:8, when he said, "Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me." Now we started this about 3 years ago, Cindy and I did, and all because of a vision, and all because the Lord was calling us to Spain. And you all supported us through prayer, through financial. And each time we come back, we try to give you a little bit of a report about what we were doing there and what the Lord is really actually doing through us. I shared with young men who were church planners, and I asked them over in Spain, "How's it going?" They said, "It's tough." I said, "Have you asked the Lord of the harvest, where the harvest is white, where the harvest is ready to be pulled and ready to be harvested?" And they said, "Hadn't heard of that, hadn't thought about that." And that's what Cindy and I started doing over there. And sometimes we got our visions off. We had to go right back to reminding us that we need to ask God where this harvest is at, so that we might be going where He needs to be, needs to hear the gospel. So we came to Spain, and we started out looking for a man. And eventually, God gave us our ministry, and I did not see it until then. So I wanted to share that with you. I don't know whether this is on. Let me see if it's on. Oh, it's off. Okay. And so Evangelical Christian Academy is where we ended up spending 3 years serving, as well as in the streets at times. And that's where we're at. Cindy and I, when you look at Spain, you think of Spain, Spaniards, and that's not always the case. We met people from different parts of Africa. They became dear brothers and sisters in the Lord. And as you can see, Cindy has the outfit there in the center. And that's one of the tribes, nation tribes of Nigeria. And this is also a Nigerian, and his name is Noah. And he is very touchy, very huggable. He always wants to hold on to me and talk with me, and that's their culture, and you had to get used to that. You know, Americans, we have our space. And y'all look very cheerful out there today. Y'all awake? And these people are from the same country, right?
Yeah, but same country, different. Sorry. Same country, but a different province in Nigeria. They're from the northern part of Nigeria. And they wanted, I asked them if I could take their picture because of the outfits that they were wearing, but they're wearing them for a reason. Nigeria has just, in the last year and a half, has started into a real civil unrest because of the conflict between Christians and Muslims. Up until this year and a half, Nigeria has been considered a Christian nation in Africa, with many churches and open worship and all of that. And these groups, and I don't remember their names, forgive me for that, but have come in now from the north and have come down and have infiltrated the government and have taken away their freedom, and it's just spreading through Nigeria. And so they attend our church, but they're wearing their outfits to ask us is please pray for Nigeria. Please pray for that part of Africa. I know it's happening everywhere, but it really kind of hit home because of the Nigerian friends that we made.
We still continue to minister in our neighborhood, and I wanted to show you about 3 pictures, and one of them is this here. This is our neighborhood. Our house is right in here. You can't see it. And this is where we'd walk pretty much every day, or either turn the side street, and we make contact with Spaniards. And just a hello, hola, buenos dias, buenas tardes, or we'd say buenas noches. and it depended upon what time of the day we were walking. Well, we also, every morning, I would walk by to go to school, and this is where this foundation was starting to be built for a house. And I really was interested in how a house was really gone from the ground up. And so I started taking pictures on a daily basis, however long he started building this. Well, eventually I made contact with the gentleman, and we got to talk back and forth, and we would converse in Spanish, and sometimes he would speak to me in Spanish above my language skill. So I would go, bien, and hasta luego, and so I would leave. But I got to watch the house grow, and I'll come back to that later at the end. Then Cindy would go here every day because she knew and figured out that the women would go shopping from 11 to 1. And she would make contact with the Spanish women. And she would make contact with other people who were coming from other countries to live in Camarma. We were also our neighbors. And in the 3 years that we were there, one day, this past 2 years, wasn't it 2 years? Or a year and a half? This gentleman here, right here, Javier, called out from his balcony and said, "Hola." I said, "Hola." He said, "I'd like to invite you to our house." So we were invited to their house, and we had dinner. And when our son and his family came to visit us, they showed them what a Spanish evening meal was like. It was really quite unique, and we've developed a friendship. Cindy and his wife Magdalena, became friends, and they would share back and forth. She would teach Cindy more Spanish, and Cindy would teach her more English. And they're both degreed people. They're both pharmacists. She works at a pharmacy, and he works at another location for the city of Madrid to check water contaminations and clarity. And there are 2 children, these 2 girls here. Go ahead.
That was a sample of a picnic. They don't typically go on picnics or have picnics, and so we actually had a picnic on our patio and introduced them to coleslaw and potato salad.
Thank you. This happens to be 2 of the students. They go to ECA, and that's their mom and their dad. And he's a pastor, and that's their other daughter who's working. And we minister to them as well. Cindy and her became very good friends. In fact, she helped us going back and forth to deal with my medical issues back there when I had 2 stents put in to help us resolve some of the financial and go through some of the physical training that I had to go back through. Go ahead, I'm going to let you talk to him.
Oh yeah, they had a women's Bible study there that I became a part of on this side here. And then this is, the IBC was the church that we attended, and so this is their women's ministry that is just beginning. When you have so many different cultures and stuff, it was a real teaching time for all of us, or a learning time for all of us, to learn how to communicate and work together as a team to minister to the other women at the church. And so it was wrought with a lot of prayer, because I don't know if you've ever seen a bunch of women get together that are just even from here in America, and we're all trying to do something, and we all have different ideas and all this. Well, imagine that, where there's a little bit of a language barrier. Sometimes you may say the word and know the word, but in English, but you don't know exactly what it means. You've just heard it a lot, and so I just felt so blessed and so privileged to be able to be a part of that, and then just to learn and to be able to encourage the women and learn. I mean, prayer is a common language. So when we got down to where it's like we don't know what to do, or what, to do this and that, it was like you just stop and pray, and God was so good and just revealed to us different activities that we could do to meet the wide variety of women not only just the immigrants that are there and the people that live in Spain, but this church also ministers to missionaries. And so, I mean, it was a wide spectrum that we were trying to really try to come together with the right activities, and just enough activities and enough Bible studies to do that. So
This is an example of it, because they were at a get-together. Can you tell them a little about this lady here? Because
because of what they do, I won't use real names, we'll just call her Sally. Her and her husband and stuff or she's from Poland, he's actually from the United States. But we had this here to encourage her. They're headed back to Poland. Her mother became ill, and they're headed back to Poland. They have 2 little girls and stuff. But it was just one of the ways that our team of ladies and stuff could honor her. One of the verses that we read, forgive my memory, I think it's in Matthew anyway, about how to strive to outdo one another by honoring. And you really look at that verse, and it's talking about believers. We're to strive, not so much, it doesn't really mean in competition, it just means like striving together to just really honor one another. And that can be as much as just listening to one another. So we were just really blessed to be able to be with, what did I call her, Sally or whatever, to pray with them and to encourage her. The last I heard, her and her husband and family are doing well. So
we also did encourage them, because when we were on the field, we thought, well, we'll be doing this and doing that. And the Lord said, I have other works for you. And so we had a fellow teacher, Cliff. I'm older than him by a month. So I always called him my younger brother when I introduced him to other people. He hit me on the side and go, by a month? So he's my younger brother by a month. And he had some medical issues he had to get done, so we all went up and visited him in the hospital and encouraged him and prayed with him. And that was, they did the same thing for me as well when I went in the hospital. We also did encouragements and showing, she was a young teacher, and she came to Spain to teach at ECA, and we took her around Madrid, a bunch of us. Christina was our lead person for our Teach Beyond, and we're a support group, our caregivers, and there's Cliff again, and this couple here, she was our librarian, and he was our help maintenance. He was a maintenance aide. But we would take them around and show them Madrid and get them accustomed to the parts of Spain. We just recently, when we came back, we went down a week and a half after we came back. She was getting married, so we went down and visited them at their wedding, and it was part of just as watching on and confirming that this is who they need to be together.
Mechanics, they need custodians, they need librarians, they need, it doesn't, it's, God can use you on the mission field, even like right here is a mission field, in whatever you do. So, but that's why he worked so much with the grounds and the maintenance and stuff like that. That was his calling when he was over there. So just FYI.
We also served the other, this is our living room, and we had a dinette table, and then we took a table, an outdoor table, and brought it in, and we would serve them dinner once a month, or have a get together, we'd play games and stuff, or we have our national holidays that we were all used to, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, or just to get together, just to let them have a good dinner. And Cindy and I would open our house and do that. That's how we ministered as well. He was our chaplain, temporary chaplain for a while, and Julia there is the daughter to this gentleman here who's our tech man. He came over to Spain. He's been there for quite a while, and he does all the technical work for our computers and communications with our school. And his daughter is now in the United States going to Liberty University. We had a real burden for it. We shared with you before that for us to go to church services every Sunday morning, we would have to take 2 buses, and it would be an hour and a half for us to get to church services for an English-speaking international church body where we felt like the Lord was really calling us to serve. And so an hour and a half on a Wednesday was not going to happen, because by the time we would get back after being there for an hour, there'd be another hour and a half to come back on a bus, and we would be late getting into Alcala for the bus to come into Camarma. And that means we would have to spend 15 euros to get a cab to bring us on in. And so what we decided to do was to do a Wednesday night prayer group, because we were also part of a, how do you say it? What was the zone ministry? And so there are so many people from Madrid metropolis areas that would come into IBC that not all of us could be on a Wednesday night service or on a Thursday or an activity, and not all of us would know each other. So what they did was decide to do zones of Madrid's metropolis, and we were the Far East. We don't look Asian, but we were Far East. And we were in charge of that. That's what we were to do. So we would reach out to people in our community who went to IBC in the hopes that we might bring others, or Spaniards or other Americans who were in our community, to come and pray with us and get to know and fellowship. And so we decided to do a prayer time, and we would meet every Wednesday night at this building. And this was by another mission organization that released the room out to us a month, 5 euros a month we paid them. And we had a worship time, and we had a prayer time, and we kept a journal. I wish we brought the journal, but we had page upon page of prayer requests, and then we would mark the date as to when they were answered, so we could keep a track of how much prayer time we gave them when the Lord really answered the prayers. And it was really a blessing, a growing experience for all of us. Whoops. Cindy, you want to talk?
One of the activities, prayer was a really big thing at IBC, which you could, I mean, prayer is a big thing in Christian lives. So, but it was a real emphasis there, and so we once a year, whenever, they would have a 24/7 prayer room set up, and so this is just a picture of one of the prayer rooms that we set up and everything there at the church body. But the 24/7, you could either be there or be home or whatever. But we just bathed Madrid and the whole area and stuff in prayer for that week. And then because of there's so much involvement and stuff, and there were prayer teams that prayed for the pastor in the service every Sunday while the pastor was preaching and stuff. And so at the end, and not like the end, he never finished preaching, but during one of the times anyway, we had a thank you for all the people that had dedicated their time and stuff like that.
It was an opportunity for them to know what we were doing as a prayer group, or the ladies were doing, and so we would have these out here, and the people who come by to have a snack, we had a cake off to the side and nuts and stuff like that. And so when they would come up, we could at leastwise give them cards and stuff, and they could be familiarized with what was going on behind the scenes. This was a blessing. This was, all of it's a blessing, but this was a blessing. This is actually what we call the Youth and University Winter Banquet. They have it every year. It's from high school or middle school up. And what they do is that the staff, that's a pastor, one of our pastors, associate pastor, and this is one of the mothers of the students going there, and this is one of the parents of one of probably university, but we would all pitch in to serve the middle school through university at a big banquet. And the kids got the opportunity to sit like adults, being served, being waited upon, and it was just a grand time. Then they had entertainment. The reason why you see a picture of me sitting here, this gentleman here was also taking pictures, but I was in charge of putting all the photos into a presentation for PowerPoint, and plus taking photographs myself. So we would do it every 10 minutes. We would load the computer up, and I would start rearranging and putting pictures together for because near the end of the banquet, they would show pictures of everybody who and their activities going on throughout it. And it was really a beneficial asset for the kids. As you can see, these are the students. These were my middle schoolers, and these are the university students. These are the other university students that's there as well. And that's the pastor's wife, the lead pastor's wife, and she's serving. And she's from Peru. This gentleman I put in here personally because at the time he was a 9th grader, actually now he's a 10th grader. As a 9th grader, his church body asked him to preach, and did quite well from all the reports that we heard. And I could see the hand of the Lord upon him as a pastor. And so I would encourage him. In fact, what happened was that we lost our chaplain near the end of the year, the latter part of the second semester of the year, and they needed somebody to go in because he had an encouragement. His family were not missionaries, his family were business people. And he felt like they needed high school students to come and gather together who were males to start a boys' Bible study group after school. And so after school they would do this, and when our chaplain left, no one was there to pick it up, and I felt really like the Lord was really laying on my heart. And sure enough, I stepped in as a lead person, and I let him lead, him and another gentleman, and they would have this Bible study and prayer time, and we would study the book of Revelation. Of all the books they chose Revelation. So it was quite an eye-opening. This is all going on while you all were praying for us and supporting us. So we continued outreach and ministering through education. This is IBC. This is a ECA, Evangelical Christian Academy. And it still stands as it looks. We have a courtyard in the back over here, and they're raising support to build an inside gym. We have an outside because when it rains, it causes chaos in the halls because you have to do all the PE and all the activities that we would normally do with the coach. Couldn't do it. We have to go to the auditorium, and then there's noise in the hallways, disrupting the elementary school, noise upstairs on the second floor, and sometimes we would have on the third floor, we'd add activities, and that's caused, again, more noise. And so they've been praying, and money has been started to go in towards an outside building.
They have the foundation. There was a donation. They have the foundation already built for the gymnasium. So now it's just raising money to be able to put the structure up.
How do you reach children? Why would I go to Spain to teach? The Lord had an idea. The Lord had an idea for all of us who are serving over there as teachers. I'm middle school. Like I shared with you last 2 times or the previous time, I fell in love with middle school. I didn't like high school. I taught high school for 11 years, but I started out teaching my career with middle school. And I closed with high school, and then the Lord brought me here, and I made a mention to the staff, the administration. I just love those middle schoolers. Well, the little ears perked up like radars, and guess where Bob Lichty ended up? He ended up as no more high schoolers, I was middle school. And so I became part of a team of teachers we had the middle schoolers in different areas. There was one lady who directed after school or before school activities for middle school students. And then our lead counselor asked me if I would come alongside and be one of the representatives for them to have student council for middle school. So I became a student council mentor, not tormentor, but mentor. And so what happens is that this is a morning activity, and once a quarter, the middle schoolers would get up and early in the morning and come and cook. And they would do all the cooking. We would just supervise. They would cook on the stove, they would make pancakes, and then they turn around and serve their other fellow middle schoolers. And we had, of course, staff there. This gentleman now is our building principal for middle school. He came back as a teacher, but years ago he was administrator of the whole school. Now he's just a middle school. And this gentleman in the back, he teaches music and Bible. And these are, like again, my middle schoolers, and they're just really a blast to be with. And that's what we would do. Then we would also teach during school, because sometimes we would do field trips and we'd have activities. Can anybody see what they're doing here? What are they doing sitting there? Do you see anything odd about them sitting? There's no chairs. They start them out on chairs, turn sideways. Then they have them lean back on each other. And then they just slowly pull the chairs out from underneath of them until all of them are bracing each other. It's a good teaching tool. It's teaching them to lean on each other for support. It was really an impact for them. You're trusting the person behind you. And they formed a bridge of connection. Then we had one for elementary, and Cindy went on a field trip, and of course we all went on a field trip, the whole school did. And it was a park, it was a natural park, and it was a good hiking trip. We had a lot of experience, we had a little interaction, and these elementary children just clung to Cindy. She was the middle school or elementary Grammy. Because some of these children, they leave. They don't know their grandparents. They don't ever get to see their grandparents. Cindy, you want to talk about that a little bit?
I did work with the elementary, where he liked the middle school. I just love the elementary kids. And so this is just a couple pictures of these two over here. They're doing Lewis and Clark reenactments. And the students it's a lot of work, but the students just love it. I mean, even down to the battle between the Indians and the Pilgrims, out on the playground and stuff. So, but it was a really good, and it just sets it in the mind. And then the teacher ties in all about, God's involvement in the expansion and in geography, and I mean, in every lesson, the Lord is brought up. And then it's just my girls playing, One of my favorite times with them was recess, because you got one-on-one time, you got to talk to them, and they would tell you anything and everything and stuff. So I really got to cherish my recess time with the kids.
It's okay to tell you that this young lady here was our associate pastor's daughter. In fact, they were looking for a Christian school, and they found ECA, and I had their two sons, and Cindy had the daughter. And we also had Spaniards. If you look, we have Spaniards in here mixed in, and their children were sent there because they wanted their children to learn English. Well, in that impact, you can't go door to door. Those of you who are new to listen to a mission field, we think that the other parts of the world are the same as in door entry. You just don't go up to somebody's house and knock on the door. They have gates. If you push the button and they know you, then they'll unlock that gate, and then you go to their house door. And if they don't know you, they're not going to let you in. And so the best way to reach them, besides meeting them on the streets, is their children. So if their children hear the gospel every day, 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year, they're going to hear the gospel, they're going to present the gospel, they're going to go home, and especially if they come to know Christ as their Redeemer, they're going to share with their parents are going to see a difference in their children, and that causes their children. And their parents also are involved. We invite them to come to the activities that we put on school-wide, and they have the opportunity to hear the gospel as well and see it lived out. So, and then plus their children do learn the English language, because Spain requires that all children will learn English because it's an international business language, and they want their children to be caught up. And plus they can go to the United States with a quality education. We teach it's not U.S., it's U.S. material, but it's Bob Jones University material out of Florida, and we buy that material. This is U.S., for example, when I teach science, this is U.S. science in a regular classroom, in our regular classrooms, and this is BJU. This is Bob Jones University material. It's this much higher. When parents would come and say, this stuff is tough, I go, I know it is. It's really tough. It's demanding. And I said, there's not much I can do about that. They go, no, this is good. We're just saying, this is tough. We're having a little difficulty. I said, not a problem. I said, we can work with them even more. And they're really pleased with the material. It's that above water, that above grade. And so we teach really hard. And we bought more books through Bob Jones University. And we teach online as well. A little faster. Okay, this is us doing geography. This is also anthropology because they're studying the Incas and the Mayans. We're also studying here, we're talking about cellular structure through leaves, different types of leaves. This one here is about, they're studying worms. Worms, mealworms. And we show them here. That's my cousin George and my Aunt Matilda. Okay. No, actually, and this one here, let me share with you. You're asked, how do we present Christ? When you talk about cellular regeneration, we talk about how it's essential for water. Water is essential. It's the reason why they tell you to drink a lot of water, because your cells need water in order to regenerate. If you don't allow your cells to have plenty of water, then your cells won't regenerate properly. The same is now you present Christ. He is the what? He is the living water. Without Christ in our life, we don't regenerate enough. We don't grow properly as believers. And we share that with them. And the fact is also, the fact is, if we don't have Christ in our life, seeking Him as the living water in our life on a daily basis, we can't share with others about Him, and we can't regenerate. And so we share that with them. And also, this is about Noah. We were studying in our science book about the flood. And so what we did was I taught them how to do architectural design and structural engineering. And in the process, they had to study Noah, and we had to convert the cubits into feet and inches. And so they drew out a whole ship, an ark, and they had to do that as a team. So we divided them in teams of 5, and they produced their drawings. I didn't bring those pictures with you. This was also genetics and how each human's individually different based upon the genetic makeup, but we still have traits of each other. This here are the worms. I've always talked about the bullfrog and the butterfly and being born again, because they can't go back. These are mealworms, and they finally named all their mealworms. And they came in every day, it didn't matter what class period. If they came in to study geography, they ran immediately over to make sure the worms are okay and feeding them. So we had to feed the worms and keep them alive. When worms convert, these are pupas, what we call them, they're actually adolescents. Almost, it seems like it takes 10 weeks for them to regenerate into a beetle. And it seems like all of a sudden, boom, they're a beetle. And they can no longer be worms. And so that concept, that understanding that they're born again. You guys ready? Okay. We also taught after school. We had activities. Cindy did an arts and craft. These are her students that she did. She worked with them. And go ahead.
My main purpose in the arts and crafts, besides just to get them to use fine motor skills and stuff, was that you could make one for you, and then then you make one for someone else. And so that was our whole deal. No matter what we were doing, we always tried to make 2, one that they could keep and one that they would give away. And so, we tried to get them to broaden out that it didn't always have to go to the teacher, it didn't always have to go to your parent. And so to look out in your neighborhood, look out so that you would be willing to share. So.
And we also did Lego Club for a group, and then we had chess club. And I was in charge of the chess club because I'd heard the boys say, oh, the girls get to do all kinds of clubs and we don't get to do any, so I opened up a chess club for them. We also had an evening. This is a lock-in. Middle schoolers, our lock-in went to 11 o'clock at night. By law, you couldn't keep them overnight. And so what we did was at 4:30, when school was out, everybody left. The kids started cooking, started doing stuff. We started doing activities and stuff all the way until 11 o'clock at night. And this was a s'mores, and they had a blast with marshmallows and chocolate and cookies and stuff. And some of these children had never heard of s'mores, so it was an introduction. And
marshmallows are new to Spain. We had to go to like a gag store the first time ever to get marshmallows. But now they're offering them a little bit more. And there's no such thing as a graham cracker over there either, so you make do with galletas, which is kind of a cookie that they have. So
marshmallows are like this.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're not small. They're big. You can cut them in half and make a s'more.
It's like the campfire marshmallows we have here, so it's just... But the chocolate's fine. They have good chocolate.
We also had it's morning, evening, and afternoon. There was always this marquee out before the seniors start to graduate, and these little cards of encouragement, and you could go by and write encouragement for whatever student you wanted to. And all these girls, which we had all girls this year graduating, and there were words of encouragement for them. So we're teaching the children how to leastwise minister to one another and their peers. How do you teach God on a daily basis? In our curriculum, we as teachers had to have spiritual emphasis in our every daily lesson plan. So you had to learn how to look for the scriptures yourself to apply in your lesson. And it was really a growing experience for me as well as the students. And then we had fun times. That is Bob and Cindy. And their emphasis was this was what we call Big Sib, Little Sib Day, and they get to choose what type of an activity they had, and they chose circus time. And so we all dressed up as circus. And as you can see, these are Big Sibs and Little Sibs.
It would be Big Sib is like a high school, getting with a middle schooler, getting with an elementary student. And so that way they're building bonds between the ages and stuff, and so the elementary have people to look up to and vice versa. So that's the purpose of the Big Sib, Little Sib Day.
Mm-hmm. She is a Spaniard. When she first came, she was ornery as a pistol. And she really tempered down and started growing as a young lady, a mature young lady. And she's listened to the gospel, and it's really cool. He is also a Spaniard, and he started working with another Spaniard who was an atheist, who's now become more of an agnostic. And the gospel is slowly being taught through the students as well. So it's really a cool, interesting principle. Of course, that's I and my younger brother, and I'm pretending I'm walking on a tightrope. We just had to do that. He thought he was going to die every time I lifted my foot up and stuff. That's called trust, and that's the staff, all dressed up. But we all get involved with it. Okay. Now, remember that building I showed you? That's his house. He hasn't gotten the windows in. I had to leave before the house was finished. I left before I could say goodbye. And that's kind of the reason why I left this in here, because the work in Spain is still unfinished. They say it takes 3 to 5 years before you start to see any product or any result. And actually, we started to see result after the end of 3 years. And the Lord called us home. We have no idea. We're ministering here as well as we can, but we have a burden for Spain. I still have a burden for Spain. To go back is where I thought I was supposed to be ministering. It's not the case. The Lord called me into ECA, and that's where I've been ministering. That's where my heart's at. My kids write me. They still text me. They ask me, we need you back. We want you back. And it's quite unique. They wrote all kinds of cards before we left, and I didn't know it. The counselors, both of them told me at 2 different times that each one didn't know it, but they took a survey of what teachers made an impact on them spiritually as Christ-centered, represented Christ. And it's not to brag. They said 75% of the kids said you, Mr. Lichty, presented Christ to them on a daily basis. And it blew me away. I had no idea that I had made that an impact. And I kicked and stormed sometimes when I had to go to work, because I really thought that I was supposed to be in the streets of Madrid. And the Lord said, no, I want you at ECA. And so this is where I've been.
Should we go ahead and show that video?
Yeah. Can we show you the video? You got just 3 minutes to show you. It's actually 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I looked at it. Is that all right? We haven't bored you? Have I bored you?
When we think about ECA, we think about the years. Okay. Now 13 years, so it'll be 14 years next year of blessings that God has brought our family and really made it possible for us to minister here and to stay here in Spain.
What we see as parents also is that our kids are not only growing academically, but they're learning scripture, and they're memorizing Bible verses, and they're being challenged academically.
Look at the bottom and make sure it equals at least 23 credits.
ECA's really impacted me in many different ways. Just the teachers here have just worked through our lives and just helped us becoming friends.
I like ECA a lot because especially in Bible class, we pray and they help us through everyday problems.
ECA is more than just a school. It's a place where spiritual growth is almost a priority here. Not only is ECA academically pretty advanced compared to other schools, but also the community and the people here are just amazing.
For me, what has been most impactful has been the teachers. They aren't only teachers, but they're people you can talk to about anything. They're always there for you. They encourage you to do anything. They bring you closer to the Lord, which is one of the things that really I struggled with before, and now I just feel like I'm really close and I have a good relationship with Him.
How would be most likely to play for Barcelona?
Whatever your talent is, there's somebody or some department here at ECA that will help you develop that. And they seek it out in you because they know that each person is given great talents. And so the staff here looks for that and helps each child develop their strengths.
I think that we were at a place where our kids were struggling so much in the system that they were in, that if we had not had ECA here to be able to offer us a lifeline in a lot of ways. And I don't know that we realized this before we moved over here, but coming, I think we realized we might not have been able to stay on the field for too much longer if we had not had such a great place to be able to send our kids, because they were really drowning in a lot of ways.
And then, of course, supporting the missionaries that are here in Spain and on the field is amazing. There's so many ministries that are associated with ECA, whether it's church planning or working with nationals and training up Spanish pastors, or working with immigrants, or you name it.
For those of you who give to the teachers and give to the school, I just want to say thank you. You're supporting them, but you're supporting us, and you're supporting our kids, and you're supporting our work that's happening in lots of different countries all over the world. So we just are thankful to God for your giving and the blessing that it is to us.
We talk about frontline ministries and missions quite a bit, and we think about church planters and evangelism. But here in Spain, ECA has to be considered a frontline ministry. I think our first 4 years here in Spain, we actually saw more kids come to Christ as students here at ECA than we actually saw in our ministry, in our church plant that we were working at the time.